Hi there, good afternoon. Welcome along to Deadline Day. And this one really promises to be one to remember. So many intriguing transfers are on the verge of completion.
Yeah, and there are now less than 9 hours left in the window for clubs to get their deals done. We've got reporters up and down the country to ensure that you won't miss a thing.
And we've got all of the big names to react to the transfers as they happen. We've got this guy, and basically we've got him on emergency loan pretty much every single deadline day from the Soccer Saturday gang. It is, of course, our very own Paul Merson. We're delighted that the former England and Arsenal forward will be with us for the next couple of hours with plenty of deals still to be done. No doubt about the big one today. Liverpool have rejected a £150 million bid for Mohamed Salah from Saudi Pro League side Al Ittihad. But is that the end of the matter?
Brighton have pulled off a major coup by signing highly rated Ansu Fati, the man who inherited Lionel Messi's shirt at Barcelona. We're live to the South Coast to hear from the man who made it happen, Roberto De Zerbi.
Manchester United fans have had to endure another rollercoaster window, but we can tell you they have agreed a deal to sign the Fiorentina midfielder Sofyan Amrabat on loan. We'll hear from Erik ten Hag.
Brennan Johnson was at Nottingham Forest's ground this morning, despite the fact that Tottenham remain in talks with the club over a deal to sign him. We'll bring you the latest.
The treble winners have got their man too. Mateus Nunes, officially a Manchester City player. We'll hear from the Portugal international this hour.
And we can hardly have a deadline day without Chelsea in the thick of it. Their spending now tops £1 billion after signing City forward Cole Palmer for a fee in excess of £42 million. We'll hear from him and his new manager, Mauricio Pochettino.
Yeah, it's got the feeling of a busy one, doesn't it? Well, we start with Liverpool rejecting what would be the third biggest transfer fee of all time, £150 million from Al Ittihad for Mo Salah. Maybe deadline day here, but of course it's not in Saudi Arabia. Jurgen Klopp spoke to the press before the news broke. He has admitted that he is concerned about their window remaining open for another week.
So the position remains the same. Absolutely, no doubt about that. We cannot. That's how it is. But yeah, nothing else to say.
No offer.
Not as far as that I know, but that doesn't mean a lot, to be honest. I don't know how sustainable it is, how long it will stay like that. I don't know all these kind of things. But I think the next 2 weeks will show how much of a challenge it is. Because whatever happens there, obviously, nobody can react anymore. That's something I think UEFA or whoever should have an eye on to sort that, because we all have to protect the game, and we want, and it's not a league or whatever, it's the game.
OK, so let's talk to Paul Merson about the situation involving Mo Salah. Right decision from Liverpool to reject this bid from Al Ittihad?
He's one of the best players in the world. It's a hard one. He's 31 years of age, 150 million. If you sell him for 150 million, what can you bring in with the 150 million? They're not going to be better than Salah, not going to get as many goals as Salah. It's such a hard one. But at the same time, are they going to win the league this season? I don't think so. So do you take the money and try and rebuild and say, right, we've got to try and win the Premier League within the next 4 years? It's a hard one. I don't want to see him go. I'm a massive fan of Salah. He scores goals for fun. And as I say, he's one of the best players in the world. But with another week of the window to go, with the money they're throwing around over there, they might even just come and say it's 200 million. And then I think it's a worry.
So I was going to say, what amount of money do you think would be irresistible to Liverpool and Fenway Sports Group?
I would say 200 million. I think 200 million, I just don't see how you can for a 31-year-old. And if they don't win the league this year, he's 32 next year. It soon starts going quickly, 32, 33. Before then, the goals will start cutting away because of his age. So it's going to be a hard one. 200 million would be irresistible.
So how perilous is the situation right now for Liverpool? How stressful also for Jurgen Klopp?
Oh, majorly, 100%. If Salah goes, you're talking about not even in the top 4 challenge race, in my opinion. I think that's how highly rated I think of him. But with another week to go, you've got to think of the lad, the wages that are getting put around. I heard $1.5 million a week. You know, that's going to turn his head. You know, he ain't going to be happy. It's a big worry for Jurgen Klopp. There's no doubt about that. It's not a nice position to be in.
But who would you rather have unhappy, Jurgen Klopp or Mo Salah? If Mo wants to go, because the money is there, both for him and for Liverpool, but Jurgen doesn't want him to go, one of them will end up being upset.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to keep Jurgen Klopp happy, surely. I mean, he's the manager of the football club. He's looking after the whole 25 players in the squad. So for me, it'll be him, but he will want him to stay. And if he does go, that won't be through him. That'll be through upstairs. Then he will get disheartened. You know, he's trying to do a job and trying to take Liverpool back to winning the Premier League again. That's going to be made very difficult. It doesn't matter if he has 200 million, where's he going to spend it with the window shutting?
It's not just the goals that Liverpool would lose if Salah were to go. Also, as you mentioned, he's over 30 years of age. He is a leader in that team, along with, well, Jordan Henderson was, Fabinho was, Firmino was, James Milner was. They're all no longer at Anfield. Can they afford to lose another leader?
He leads by example. He leads, you know, he's not a shouter. He's someone who leads by his goals and his performances on the pitch. It's a hard one. You know, it's all right me sitting here saying, oh, you can't turn it down. You know, it's someone else's money. It's a business, and they got 150. If that gets to 200 million, I don't see him winning the league this year. I don't see him winning the Premier League with Salah or without Salah. You know, so for me, they might say, we'll take the 200 million. We make this a 4-year plan. We got to invest well, as you said. Look at the players they've just let go. Bring in younger players. I mean, the lad, you know, don't help my dyslexic. The lad from Bayern Munich, Shabazz. Yeah, what a player. What a player. You know, for me, what a good player. You know, if you can bring in players like that, you know, that are diamonds, you never know. But at the moment, I wouldn't want to be in Jurgen Klopp's shoes. And I wouldn't want to be in Salah's, if I'm being honest, because this will twist his head.
Yeah, Szoboszlai's come in from RB Leipzig.
Yeah,
Ryan
Gravenberch.
Gravenberch could come in.
Yeah, I don't know
Bayern
too
Munich.
much of him, if I'm being honest, but the lad who's coming from Leipzig is... I've been so impressed with him. I've watched Liverpool a few times this season, and he's been outstanding. I mean, at the moment, I would say he was the best buy out of everybody at the moment, in my opinion.
So their window closes on the 7th of September. On the 7th of September, when that deadline is done, will Mo Salah be a Liverpool player, yes or no?
I'm going to go no. Neil Diamond, money talks. You know what I mean? And I just, it's the Mo Salah situation. Mo Salah won't be happy. He won't. You know, I done it many years ago. I went to Middlesbrough. The money was phenomenal. You know, looking back now, you know, I wouldn't have done it again. And that's no disrespect to Middlesbrough. My addictions took over. But this is mind-blowing money. This is money that, let alone him having to do anything again, his grandchildren will never have to do anything again. You know, you've got to think, you know, he'll be finished in 4 years, Mo Salah, 5 years tops, especially the way he plays. He needs his pace. He's got another 50 years of his life, hopefully, to live. You know, it's a long time. It's a long time. I think I wouldn't want to be in... I feel for Jurgen Klopp. I think with the Saudi Arabians, the way they're throwing money around, their window should shut at exactly the same time as ours. Because if he does go in 4 or 5 days' time, you're looking at Liverpool. It's rip up the book and you start all over again, and you've got to wait till January. So I feel for Liverpool. I feel for Klopp, and in a way, I do feel for Salah as well.
No, thank you for the moment.
Thank you.
OK, that clock is ticking down. 8 hours, 50 minutes and 39 seconds remaining in this window. It's been a bit of an up and down window so far for Manchester United, but today it's been a pretty good day indeed. They've already completed 2 deals. Sani Rajavajala joins us now live from Old Trafford. Sani, United have agreed to sign Sofian Amrabat on loan from Fiorentina in the last hour. That deal is now agreed. You've got the details.
Yeah, it's actually good afternoon from Carrington, actually, Manchester United's training ground. Erik ten Hag's just been speaking to the press and I've been asking questions to him. I did ask him about what has now been revealed as his new signing, Sofiane Amrabat. It's a deal on loan for £8.5 million, and that's for a loan fee from Fiorentina. They didn't have an additional amount they could pay for the player, £21.4 million on a permanent deal. He's a combative midfielder, central midfielder, did really, really well for Morocco as they got to the World Cup semi-finals. They beat Spain along the way. They lost to France in the semis, but he did a tackle on Kylian Mbappe, which he said in the press afterwards was celebrated like it was a goal. So he's strong on the ball, good in possession, a good distributor of the ball, a sort of play that Erik ten Hag would love to play, and it looks like he's got his man. United having to go for a loan here to fulfil their financial fair play obligations. And another player they've signed as well is Altay Bayindir, goalkeeper, Turkish goalkeeper. He's played 5 times for his country. 6'6", good shot stopper as well. And this will become really important as well because Andre Onana, who's the #1 goalie, I asked Ten Hag in the press conference about his future internationally, and it seems that Onana will be coming back out of international retirement. He'd ruled himself out under Rigobert Song. So that could mean that we might see a bit more of Bayindir because Cameroon are in the Africa Cup of Nations in January and February at the Ivory Coast. So this signing is one that will be very important for United in the future, and this is what Erik ten Hag has to say about his new goalie.
We followed him, we scouted him very intense, and we think he has the skills that he fit in Man United, fit in English football, that he has the skills. So we are really glad that we signed him, and we are confident that he will make a lot of progress in the coming period. The coming years, and he will be a huge contribution to our game.
Looking like a very busy day for Manchester United, isn't it? Because they don't appear to be done yet.
No, they've also signed Sergio Reguilon on loan from Tottenham Hotspur. He's actually had his medical last night. He's trained with them already this morning. He'll play in at full-back, and here's what the Manchester United boss has to say about him.
He's a very experienced player, a player for big clubs, play already a lot of games in La Liga, in Premier League. So he has, I think, a very good background. We have seen he can play very intense football. So we are happy. While we had a problem with Luke Shaw injured, time Malacia injured, for a long time out. So I think we responded very well on that emergency situation.
So that's Ten Hag on Reguilon, of course, signed from Spurs from Real Madrid, was on loan at Atletico Madrid last season. That's why he's got that La Liga experience. He'll be in the mix for United's game. They go to Arsenal in Super Sunday, 4:30 kickoff on Sky Sports main event.
Sani, thank you very much for the moment. Now, let's turn our attention to what could be the biggest domestic deal of the day as Tottenham pursue Brennan Johnson from Nottingham Forest. Michael Bridge is across this story for us. Michael, good to see you. There are lots of rumours, aren't they, about a deal being agreed. What do you know? What can you tell us?
Hi, Hannah. Yeah, just waiting for confirmation from our club sources about this deal being agreed. But their clubs are confident of reaching an agreement here between Spurs and the transfer of Brennan Johnson. It's a player Ange Postecoglou really wants, direct, pacey, forward. He can play in a number of positions. So Spurs are hopeful, as we've reported all day. It could be a day of ifs with Spurs if they can move certain players, if they can bring a few more in. However, understand that Brennan Johnson doesn't really fall into that category, and that is one they've been looking to bring in for some time now, and that doesn't really overly rely on any outgoings, whereas some might. So Spurs hopeful to get this one done over the next few hours.
Postecoglou, earlier on you spoke to Ange Postecoglou. What has he said about potential business that could get done today?
Yeah, he didn't totally confirm that Spurs were in for Brennan Johnson. I mean, Premier League managers don't, but he certainly didn't deny it, and he knows he wants a couple more, certainly more attacking options. You saw the other night against Fulham that they were pretty toothless around the forward lines there. But again, it's a kind of player that Ange Postecoglou likes, direct, and someone he wants to work with. So this is why I asked Ange Postecoglou earlier and answered me on transfers in what is certainly going to be a busy day here at Tottenham Hotspur.
Michael, thank you very much indeed.
OK, big update on Mo Salah. Al Ittihad are not giving up on signing the Liverpool forward. They haven't ruled out going back in with an improved offer. Remember, already today they've had a bid worth £150 million rejected by Liverpool. One source has told Sky Sports News the Saudi club are getting encouragement in certain quarters that a deal can still be done. Wry smile on the face of Paul Merson. And while they feel they have that encouragement, they will try again. For Liverpool's part, their stance is firm. The player is not for sale. They have no intention of selling. We'll be getting the thoughts of Paul Merson on that in a few minutes' time. But another player very much in demand, and with one club in focus, is João Palhinha. Fulham have said he can travel to Munich, but this deal is not yet done. Still plenty of time, less than 9 hours to go in this summer transfer window for this one to get over the line.
reminder, if you're out and about today, you can keep across all the latest deals across our social media platforms and on the Transfer Centre live blog. All you need to do is scan the QR code that you can see on your screen right now, and it'll take you straight to our Transfer Centre. Okay, now undoubtedly one of the biggest coups of this transfer window has been Brighton agreeing a deal for Barcelona's highly rated youngster Ansu Fati, and Roberto De Zerbi was instrumental in making that happen, and we can hear from the Brighton head coach now.
I'm very pleased. We are very pleased. It's a big player. We lost Enciso, and we needed one big player. We are lucky because we have a lot of young player, potential top player, and it will be one responsibility more, no? Because if you work with this talent, you have much responsibility, because it's a football heritage. And we can make mistake with this player, because football needs this talent, and you have to manage in different way.
When did you learn of the opportunity to potentially sign Ansu?
But we didn't think before then, 3-4 days ago. But we knew very well Ansu, and when we understood there was the possibility to bring him, we worked on this negotiation.
And what have you said to him about Brighton and about how you want him to play?
No, I'm used to speaking in with True, no. I told him our style, I think, is very close with his characteristic, with qualities. I think the Brighton is a club who can help the young player, and the dressing room is fantastic, and we will play Europe League. We want to compete in Premier League last season as well, but sincerely, I spoke sincerely.
Was he registered in time to play tomorrow against Newcastle?
No, I think no. But anyway, he didn't work in the last 4 or 5 days, and
okay. And there's still time in the transfer window. Are you expecting any other deals, any other players coming in or players going out?
But I don't know. I think now we are complete in every part of the pitch. We have a very good squad, but for sure we have to work to find the solution to help the new players to come inside, to understand better the idea, to improve the physical condition. But I'm really happy. I think we can compete. We have to find the balance, but we can compete like last season.
One of those you go, how on earth did they do that? Ansu Fati to Brighton, what a coup.
It's a compliment to Brighton, especially the way they play Brighton. They play great football. Yeah, and, you know, they do it year in, year out. The players they recruit, they do their own work, you know, and they get stuff done, you know. They've been working, all of a sudden, bang, well, at crash, it's done, the deal's done, we're all like, wow. So I like what Brighton do. They're good and they play total soccer, and I think he'll fit in. I think, you know, Barcelona played soccer, and he'll do exactly the same at Brighton.
But he is young, he has had injuries, he's only ever played in La Liga for one club. So are there any worries there at all?
It's always, yeah, I mean, it's always with everybody, you know, it's always how a player's going to settle in, how they're going to find it. You know, every game's a difficult game. You see it Brighton last weekend against West Ham. You know, how many people would have called that? So for me, only time, but he's played at Barcelona, he's played with very good players. So I'm sure he'll be singing off the same hymn sheet as the Brighton players if he did it with the ones at Barcelona.
Back to you in just a moment, Merce. Let's just give you an update on Liverpool and Mo Salah. Al Ittihad will not give up on signing the Egyptian forward. They haven't ruled out going back in with an improved offer after having a bid worth £150 million rejected by Liverpool. One source has told Sky Sports News the Saudi club are getting encouragement in certain quarters that a deal can be done. And whilst they feel they have that encouragement, they will try again. Liverpool's stance isn't firm. The player not for sale. They have no intention of selling. And only a few moments ago, Mercy, you told us that you didn't think he would be a Liverpool player past September 7th when the Saudi Pro League deadline is. Do you think that, in fact, now you feel even more convinced of that, given this?
Well, that's obviously his agents ringing up the club and saying he definitely wants to come, or we want to come, and it's keeping them interested. It'll be up to the club, but with the money they're throwing around, I don't see how they won't put another 50 million in. I mean, it's not like they're looking at their wallets. Do you know what I mean? They'll make it 200 million, and I just can't see how Liverpool can turn that down. As I say, I don't see Liverpool winning the Premier League this season with Salah. So why don't you cash in?
Watching this one very closely. Thank you, Merce.
OK, we've got some breaking news for you, and for it, we're going to head to Michael Bridge, who's at the Tottenham training ground for us. Michael, what can you tell us?
Yes, big breaking news for Tottenham Hotspur, and Spurs have agreed a fee with Nottingham Forest for the transfer of Brennan Johnson. So Spurs and Ange Postecoglou have got the player they've wanted over the last few days. He's been a key target for Ange Postecoglou. Just speaking to my colleague there, Rob Dorset, he understands, speaking to people at Forest as well, it's around £45 million plus add-ons. This is a player Spurs have been after, and it looks like they're getting him. So let's reiterate, Spurs have agreed a fee with Nottingham Forest for Brennan Johnson. Just about half an hour ago, I was speaking to Ange Postecoglou about transfer targets, and he's still hoping to get one or two in. I mentioned about Brennan Johnson in particular, and this is what he said.
OK, we've got lots of breaking news coming in all the time here on Sky Sports News this afternoon. There is just 8.5-ish hours to go until the transfer window closes. We're going to have plenty more after the break.
welcome back. This deadline day, less than 8.5 hours to go. Paul Merston's still with us. Brennan Johnson, very talented young player. Spurs today, would that be a good move for the player? Would that be a good move for the club?
Oh, it's definitely a good move for the player. I mean, it's the top club, Tottenham, you know, great stadium. Yeah, nice big pitch. You know, I think it
suits his skills, doesn't it?
It will suit him, and it will suit Tottenham. You know, the Tottenham want to spread the game. You know, and they want people to go over the top. I don't see too many willing to run without the ball at Tottenham. He does, and he'll spread the game, and he'll open it up for players to get on the ball in midfield. And I think it's a good signing for Tottenham. I really do. He's got plenty of pace, and he'll only get better, the kid.
OK, what about the domino effect that will lead to, especially in terms of Spurs offloading and other players coming in?
Yeah, I think 100%. I think that's what happens now. You know, I think Hudson-Odoi would probably go to Forest, which I think is a great signing for them. I really do. I think because when you play at Chelsea, 10 sit behind the ball, it's hard. You're a winger, you get doubled up. You go to Forest. Teams have a go at Forest. He'll get isolated. He'll get plenty of space, and I think it'll be a very good signing for Forest. I think that suits him at Forest. That's what you've got to look at. I think some players, they just go and they don't really think. You know, the agent sends them to this club, but for that, I think it fits both ways. I think Johnson fits the way Tottenham want to play and the size of the pitch and everything. And I think Hudson-Odoi would be a good move for him.
Forest, Fulham, Tottenham, Manchester United, all active today, that's for sure. Hannah.
They've all been active today, but Manchester City have sealed the biggest deal of the day so far. They've signed Nunes from Wolves for £53 million. Let's head live now to Ben Ramson. Ben, good to see you. So the player got the move he wanted. Is he a good fit, though, for City?
Yes, he definitely wanted this move, didn't he? A dream move, he's already called it, Nunes. And you have to say, I think it is a good fit, particularly when you consider the number of options. I mean, looking at the Manchester City bench, particularly in that UEFA Super Cup match, it was fairly thin on the ground. A lot of young players were included in that squad, in the absence of Kevin De Bruyne, one of their stand-up performers over the best part of a decade, but he's going to be out, as we know now, for a few months yet. So in terms of a player to come in to fill that role, to potentially challenge the central midfield, that midfield three, Nunes does seem to fit the bill, and he's a player they very much like here at Manchester City. They've tracked him as a young player in Portugal. They tracked him last season when he was at Wolves as well. And Director of Football Ziki Begiristan said today that he's technically gifted, he can pass through the lines, and he really gives them another option in that midfield three. And Juan Malilo, who was standing in to do the press conference today in Pep Guardiola's absence, remember Pep Guardiola is still recovering from surgery on his back. We're told that's going well, by the way. Lilo is in regular contact with Guardiola. He's watching on from deadline day from afar. Lilo was in the hot seat today, and he said that Nunes hasn't yet had a chance to train with his Manchester City teammates, so I guess the only question will be whether he is deemed fit enough already to be included in the matchday squad against Fulham tomorrow.
Ben, he also as well spoke about Cole Palmer. What did he have to say on that, if anything?
Yeah, it was one of the more surprising moves this week, wasn't it? Came almost out the blue, literally out the blue, I suppose, given it was Chelsea that came in with that huge offer of 40 million plus for Cole Palmer, a player who's had a magnificent summer with the England under-21s. But despite breaking into the first team squad around 3 seasons ago, he's only started 3 Premier League matches, and he's a player who has been keen for more regular minutes in the Premier League. He's been pushing for it. Pep Guardiola admitted as much earlier in the season, whether they'd be able to keep him happy or not. This opportunity came up, and it was deemed the best for all parties. And as far as Juan Malilo today, and as far as everyone here at Manchester City is concerned, a player who's come through the academy system.
It sounds like we've got a few little technical gremlins in talking to Ben. He's there at the moment, but he's not hanging around. Right, let's turn our attention to Fulham, shall we? And the big question is, do Bayern Munich have enough time to sign Fulham's midfielder João Palhinha? He's been given permission to fly to Germany. Our last understanding was that a deal hadn't been agreed yet. James Lewer has got the very latest for us. James, what can you tell us at this point?
Well, your information is pretty much spot on there. Yes, we had news earlier from the club, from Fulham, that João Palhinha had been given permission to travel to Munich, but at this stage, no deal has been struck between Bayern and Fulham. The key part of this is finding a replacement for João Palhinha, and there is a few players that have been in the frame for that. We spoke about those earlier on this afternoon and this morning as well. We know that talks are ongoing between Fulham and the likes of Scott McTominay and Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, but at the moment there is no movement on that one. What I can tell you is, though, there is one player that is very, very close to completing his move from Everton to Fulham, and that is Alex Iwobi. He was here earlier this afternoon. He arrived in the back of a silver Mercedes as he was here to complete his medical. £22.5 million deal plus add-ons. So Alex Iwobi will be a Fulham player if all things go to plan. That'll be the one probably player that we're going to get through the door here on deadline day. But, you know, there could be more. We've still got a bit of time to go yet. We've got 8 and a bit hours still left, so lots can change. We did hear from Silva yesterday, the Fulham manager, Marco Silva, that he wants to bring in people to cover certain positions, like up front, at full-back as well. So there is plenty of movement that could still happen between now and that 11 o'clock deadline.
James, thank you very much.
All right, João Palhinha, been given the green light to go to Munich. Not done yet. Should he leave and Fulham get Scott McTominay or Pierre-Emile Højbjerg as a replacement? How do you think their fans will feel about that?
Don't know, I'm a big fan of Palhinha. I think what Bayern Munich are putting together in Germany for the Champions League looks strong. I think he's a good signing. I would take Scott McTominay, if I'm being honest. I like Scott McTominay. I think he's underrated. I think he doesn't get a fair crack at Man United. So, yeah, not the worst deal in the world if they swapped, but the better deal would be with Bayern Munich.
Just hearing from James there about Alex Iwobi coming in from Everton.
Yeah.
You had a look of surprise on your face when you heard about that.
I'm shocked. Everton need to keep their players. I thought Iwobi was one of their better players last season in a terrible season and the season before. So, for me, I'm quite shocked with that, if I'm being honest. Yeah, very shocked. Good signing for Fulham. Good signing.
It seems like Fulham are again in the situation where they're having to do business late. If you lose Palhinha, you lose Alexander Mitrovic, then where does that leave their expectations for this season, Merce?
I think you've got to try and finish middle of the table. I think it's dangerous. You know, I think a lot of clubs are sort of working on the fact of we're going to be better than 3 other teams. And I think that's a dangerous game. You know, this is a hard league. You can lose games. You know, you look at Fulham, they go and get beat by Brentford at home, then they go and get a result at Arsenal with 10 men. It changes. In this league, you know, you've got to be careful. You've got to do your business and make sure you stay in this league because anybody can drop out of it.
All right, cheers for the moment, Merce.
OK, let's turn our attention now to Newcastle. Their most recent signing was Lewis Hall from Chelsea. The big question is, will there be any more incomings at the club before the window shuts later tonight? Let's cross to our reporter, Keith Downey. Good to see you, Keith. So, Newcastle have already been busy during this window, but can we expect more business at St James's Park today?
Yeah, Eddie Howe was very keen this transfer window to get his business done as soon as he possibly could. Of course, they landed Sandro Tonali and Harvey Barnes before the pre-season schedule really got underway. And then later we saw Tino Livramento and Lewis Hall both arrive at the club as well. Over £100 million has been spent by Newcastle United. And there was a little question as to whether they would try and bring one more in before the deadline later tonight. And that is because there is an injury to Sven Botman, their crucial central defender. He hobbled off against Liverpool last weekend with an ankle injury. Eddie Howe was asked about his injury today. He was asked about it because we knew that if the injury was serious, Newcastle would go into the market. But it doesn't look as though it's too bad. This is what Eddie Howe has had to say on Newcastle's efforts in the transfer window to date and where they lie with just a few hours left to go.
We knew when we signed Lewis that we weren't going to do any more business. That was going to be us, unless, you know, obviously there was a crisis in terms of positions and you were able to act. But, you know, with Sven's injury, it's one injury and we don't think it's too bad. So we hope we get him back pretty quickly. And our squad depth is okay. I think we're a lot stronger than we were last year in terms of numbers. And that's what the squad's for, is to cater for these injuries. I think for us, it's just been the kind of window where we were able to get the targets in that we wanted, and we've been quite settled, and there'll be no late moves for us. So I think I've said previous weeks, you can only tell the strength of a window in time, but as I sit here now, I'm pleased.
The draw for the Champions League group stages must have been a fairly big talking point with Eddie Howe earlier. What did he have to say about it?
Yeah, Hannah, he said he watched the draw in the club's changing room, training grounds, should I say, behind me, decided not to travel out to Monaco for that draw. The club's sporting director and chief executive were both there. I don't think Newcastle United could have hand-picked a tougher draw. Could the three of the biggest clubs in Europe in the shape of PSG, Borussia Dortmund and AC Milan to face? Of course, Newcastle pinched AC Milan's best player in the shape of Sandro Tonali for £55 million earlier this year. When they qualified for the Champions League, he said he wanted the supporters to have some great trips abroad, and he said he wanted to test themselves against the best. That's definitely what they'll do, having to face those three clubs both home and away. And he also said that when he watched the draw last night when the names were pulled out, he said jokingly that he sat in silence for about an hour afterwards, just trying to take on board what he'd heard.
There's a bit of silence for about an hour. No, there's a bit of silence for about 10 seconds, and that was good. Well, I've seen them this morning, so I'm sure there'll be discussions about it. But I think the main thing for us is that we're focused very much on Brighton. The Champions League now is done, the draw's done, but we're minds fully focused on the Premier League. So, yeah, no doubts about the size of the challenge, but yeah, bring it on. You know, that has to be how we feel, and that's what I encourage my players to think, and I think it's exciting.
Some great away days, though, aren't there, for the fans? We've got to talk about some video footage that emerged this week on social media of an incident involving Jamal Lascelles. Will he be in the squad for Newcastle's game with Brighton this weekend?
Yeah, he's in the squad for the match against Brighton tomorrow. We're told that the club are looking into the situation internally, but I think the feeling from within the club is that Jamal Lascelles was acting in self-defence. Of course, that social media footage was doing the rounds on Sunday, Monday last weekend, and it was clear to see that the Newcastle United captain was caught up in that incident in the city centre, which was on August the 20th, so almost 2 weeks ago. Incidentally, it was late in the night after Newcastle had played Manchester City away, so Lascelles had travelled back here to Newcastle, went on a night out with his younger brother and a friend, and then got caught up in the situation. The feeling from within the club, as I say, was that Lascelles was trying to protect himself and his brother, and no action will be taken against him. This is what Eddie Howe had to say this morning when I asked him about the topic.
Firstly, the club will be dealing with everything internally. I think a couple of things really. The first thought was Jamal's safety, the safety of his family, was absolute paramount. We believe that he was sort of an innocent in the starting of what happened, and he was acting as peacemaker for what happened. I think that the other thing to say on that is that we would prefer, obviously, our players aren't out in the city centre in the early hours. I think that's natural from my side. But as I say, going back to the first point, is the safety of Jamal was paramount. He's okay, and I think his brother's okay.
So Newcastle currently travelling to Brighton, where they will play the Seagulls tomorrow night at 5:30, a match you can see live on Sky Sports. I just saw the players leaving in the last hour to catch their flight down there. Another huge match for them at the start of the season. Half an eye maybe on the Champions League. In terms of the transfer window, as Eddie Howe said, though, not expecting any more arrivals today, I'm afraid.
Keith, thanks very much.
Another potential deal in such sharp focus. Could Brennan Johnson be swapping the City ground for Spurs? We'll be getting the Nottingham Forest side of the story here on Sky Sports News.
Just 8 hours and 11 minutes to go. And one of the big stories, I should say, in the last hour or so is that Tottenham have agreed a fee with Nottingham Forest for the winger Brennan Johnson, who's now on his way, we understand it, down to London for a medical. Let's head to Rob Dorset, who's at the City ground for us today. Rob, let's start with the Forest end of this deal. We understand Johnson is on the move. Has he left the training ground?
He has. We believe he left in a blacked-out car about 45 minutes ago. And let's just recap exactly where we're at, because this could be one of the biggest deals that we see on transfer deadline day. Brennan Johnson, a long-term target for Ange Postecoglou, a priority for the Spurs boss as we understand it in this window. But there's been pretty much stalemate between the two clubs for the last week or more. But things have moved pretty quickly in the second half of this morning and into the early part of this afternoon, as I understand it. And while Spurs were originally prepared to pay around £40 million for the young winger, they did extend to what I'm told is now an offer in excess of £45 million. So the exact figure we're still waiting to hear detail of. But this is going to have to move pretty quickly now for Spurs to get this one over the line, because you don't spend that sort of money without giving the player that you would like to sign a thorough medical. My understanding is that Tottenham have now booked slots for Brennan Johnson to go straight into his medical as soon as he gets down to London, which is likely to be around tea time, isn't it? Maybe 4:30, 5 o'clock before he gets down to Tottenham. And then they have to get that medical through and get all of the paperwork done. And there are still one or two details of this contract still to be ironed out, and an agreement between the two clubs over the structure, the exact structure of those payments. The pictures you're looking at now are Brennan Johnson here at Nottingham Forest training ground earlier on this morning. He arrived, as did the rest of the Forest squad, for a training session as they make their final preparations ahead of tomorrow's game against Chelsea. So we knew Johnson would be heading to London one way or another today. We thought he might be going with the rest of the Forest squad in the next hour or so. They're due to leave to head to London. But no, he's gone ahead of them, because he's expected to complete a deal for Tottenham. He hopes he can complete a deal for Tottenham. And that looks like now it is going to happen. But the timings are tight, as I say. £45 million plus is the offer that's been accepted by Nottingham Forest. And I ought to point out that that gives Forest a bit of leeway in terms of financial fair play, as I understand it. And it also opens up the possibility of them signing Ibrahima Sangare, the PSV Eindhoven defensive midfield player. There's been talks with PSV for a long time now, but Forest wouldn't be able to go near that deal unless they could get the money in for Brennan Johnson. That's why they want so much of the money up front from Spurs. It's why that part of the deal is absolutely key. So it could be yet another one in for Nottingham Forest, even while the fans are contemplating the now likely out of their star winger Brennan Johnson. So let's just recap where we are with Forest, shall we? They've signed Nuno Tavares today. Loan deal from Arsenal completed. Nicolas Dominguez is here. He's undergoing a medical as I speak to you right now. Callum Hudson-Odoi is here. He's completed his medical. The final bits of his contract are yet to be agreed. And that huge possible outgoing for them as well. Brennan Johnson on his way to London, on his way to North London right now to undergo a medical in the hopes that he can be a Tottenham player before the 11 o'clock deadline.
Rob, thank you very much.
Right then, these shots just into us. Liverpool's training ground. Mo Salah smiling, waving to our cameras. We know that he is subject to that £150 million bid from Al Ittihad. It has been rejected by Liverpool, but we understand that Al Ittihad have not given up on signing the Egyptian, and that they could well go back in for more. Remember that the Saudi Pro League transfer deadline is on the 7th of September. And just if you check out our Deadline Day live transfer blog, then the latest we have there involves Everton, and Brentford apparently close to signing striker Neil Maupay, again on loan from Everton. Speaking of which, Hannah.
Yeah, let's actually get back out on the road and go to Everton, shall we? Alan Irwin is at the club's training ground for us. Alan, Wilfried Gnonto, could the deal for him be back on?
Yeah, I suspect it could get busy for Everton late on, because Sean Dyche was quick to point out yesterday that if Everton were to bring in players in this transfer window and deadline day, it would depend on outgoings. They are looking in wide areas, as he specified yesterday, and Wilfried Gnonto is definitely a target, but Leeds are playing hardball. Of course, he faced disciplinary action from his club Leeds earlier in the season when he refused to play, handed in a transfer request, but he's back in the fold. He scored for Leeds in the 4-3 win at Ipswich over the weekend and played again in the League Cup, so Leeds want to keep him. Everton are doing their utmost to try and prize him away and bring him here to Goodison Park. And also in the wide areas, if they can't get a deal through for Gnonto, then Kamaldeen Sulemana from Southampton would be a target. The Ghanaian international is still only 21, but Southampton only bought him for £22 million in January, so he would cost substantial funds, I think, to prize him away. But a couple of outgoings mean that Everton can start dealing. Alex Iwobi on his way to Fulham, as we heard earlier. That's virtually done, just going through the medical. And they've also managed to secure, well, it's in the offing, Tom Cannon to Leicester for around about £7 million, and he didn't start a first-team game for Everton. And with Neil Maupay on the way to Brentford on a loan deal, there could well be others leaving the football club, the likes of Andre Gomez, Jean-Philippe Gabamin as well. So possibly dealings late on here for Everton.
Sounds like we might be back with you shortly. Thanks, Alan.
Outgoings from the Premier League to the Championship. Bournemouth have verbally agreed a deal with Swansea for Jamal Lowe to join on loan until January, and Sunderland finalising a loan deal for Chelsea forward Mason Burstow. Still plenty to come here on deadline day. Could Mo Salah be heading to the Saudi Pro League? If so, Al Ittihad have to come back with more than £150 million. Stay with us.